Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you today. Why is the ad still going? Weird. All right, so walking our way through the Bible, and we're going to be back in Job today. So, if you're not familiar with Job, Job is considered wisdom literature. It also can be called poetry. Uh, and Job is a very, well, different kind of story. And so we're going to be back in Job a couple of chapters today. And if you remember where we were last time, um, there was, well, you know what? Let's just go back and look a second because I'm trying to remember what it said. One day the angels came to present themselves, or this should be sons of God. I just wanted to recall that and look at it so that you remember that. And so we're the sons of God came together, and the Satan, the adversary, the accuser, is who was there. Those are things I was trying to uh, look at for a second. So though the accuser, when the sons of God, and who that is, the best explanation, in my opinion, is a gathering of heavenly host. Who was there exactly? Who they were? What the roles were? There's mostly speculation at that. But some translations will say elders. That makes no sense. The angels, I think, is not quite as good of an understanding of it, but nonetheless, they gather together. The accuser, the adversary, um, whose job it was. It's a job title, not a person's name. He points the finger at Job and says, "Yeah, the only reason that he blesses you, God, or praises you, God, is because you bless him. Take away the blessings, he'll stop." So all of his kids are killed, stuff is taken away, and he is still praising God. And then we see that the accuser says, "Well, yeah, that's fine, but you didn't touch him." So he says, "Okay, you can touch him, but you just can't kill him." And so he does. He inflicts him with boils, and so what's Job do? Doesn't still do anything to curse God. So, why did it go to Romans? Don't want to go there, huh? Well, we want Job 3 and 4. So that's where we were, and so he has been sitting in silence with his friends for a week, which I think is a appropriate response. We too often want to open our mouths and say something when what someone needs is simply our presence with them. So after this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. I find this a fascinating thought. He doesn't curse God, which is what his wife said he should do. Um, and he instead curses the day he was born. So let's look at that. He said, "May the day of my birth perish, and the night that said a boy is conceived. That day may it turn to darkness. May God above not care about it. May no light shine on it. May gloom and utter darkness claim it once more. May a cloud settle over it. May blackness overwhelm it. That night may thick darkness seize it. May it not be included among the days of the year, nor be entered in any of the months. May that night be barren. May no shouts of joy be heard in it. May those who curse days curse that day. Those who are ready to rouse Leviathan. May its morning stars become darkened. May it wait for daylight in vain and not see the first rays of dawn. For it did not shut the doors of the womb on me to hide trouble from my eyes. Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb? Why were there knees to receive me and breasts that I might be nursed? For now I would be lying down in peace. I would be asleep and at rest with kings and rulers of the earth who built for themselves places now lying in ruins, with princes who had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Or why was I not hidden away in the ground like a stillborn child, like an infant who never saw the light of day? There the wicked cease from turmoil, and there the weary are at rest. Captives also enjoy their ease. They no longer hear the slave drivers shout. The small and the great are there, and the slaves are freed from their owners. Why is light given to those in misery, and life to the bitter of soul, to those who long for death that does not come, who search for it more than for hidden treasures, who are filled with gladness and rejoice when they reach the grave? Why is life given to a man whose way is hidden, whom God has hedged in? For sighing has become my daily food. My groans pour out like water. What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. I have no peace, no quietness. I have no rest, but only turmoil. Uh, yeah, that is quite, well, I'm sure poetic in its original writing, but quite sad in what he's feeling. So he's cursing the day he was born. In fact, he says, and the night he was conceived. He wishes there no one ever to celebrate or remember that day. I like, wouldn't that day be among those days of the year? Get it out of the calendar. Get rid of it. Don't anyone ever remember that that day ever existed. Uh, I've kind of thought of this as February 29. You only think about it once every 4 years. It's just kind of halfway in the calendar and halfway out. And then Job wants his birthday to be February 30. Just make sure that it's not even a thing. And if you're not familiar with that, there is, or has been, I should say, in my understanding, upon occasion, a February 30 added to the calendar to get the calendar back on track after like 1,000 years or something. You need to have a February 30. So that's the way to get that out of the calendar. That's the day he was born, is to say he was February 30. But just look at all of the sorrow he's describing. He describes sorrow. He's going through different stages here of cursing the day, cursing all the things around it, talking about how no one in death is suffering. That's a fascinating thought. That when that let's see, where was all these descriptions of, yeah. Must have been up here earlier. Yeah, here it is. Um, the wicked cease their turmoil, and the weary are at rest. Captives also enjoy their ease. They no longer hear the slave drivers shout. Small and great are there. slaves are freed from their owners. So after cursing the day he was born and wishing that perhaps he died in birth, um, he's saying, I want to have that same kind of release from suffering that happens on death. I have the misery to be gone, the bitterness of soul, the because he sums it up, I have no peace, I have no quietness, I have no rest, I only have turmoil. So he has all of this going on. Why? Because he lost essentially all his earthly wealth, all of his children, and now his health. And he's sitting here suffering and struggling. And so he wishes it would end. However, he doesn't curse God, which is what his wife suggested. And as I mentioned before, I think that there's a level of compassion in her desire or her suggestion. It's not a she wants to curse God or that she doesn't believe in God. She, I think, like he is crying out and wishing that this would end. She wanted it to end for him as well. So now his friends have kept quiet, and somehow I missed this before. I did not recall that Job spoke first and then his friends. And now we'll see a series of his friends speak and he responds, and his friends speak and he responds. And there's the cyclical stuff that we'll get into. So you have to bear that in mind as we go forward. If you miss one of these, we might miss part of that. So Job speaks first, cursing the day he was born and wishing for death. I might add that even as Job is being honest about the sorrow, the depression, the anxiety, whatever you want to call it, the bitterness, everything that's happened in his life, he is cursing the day he was born. He is not intending to take his own life. So while he would wish to be dead, he has no intention or says nothing to lead us to think that he is willing to take his own life. That is not the case. He is simply expressing the sorrow um, that he feels, which may, in some people, lead them towards um, taking their own life or thinking about it. But I don't think that in anything that he says here, there are any things that point to Job thinking that he should end his life. No, he's just wishing it would end, which I think is different. So, all right, with that, let's jump into the first um, thing that Job hears from his friends. And Eliphaz, the Temanite, replied, if someone ventures a word with you, will you be impatient? But who can keep from speaking? Think how you have instructed many, how you have strengthened feeble hands. Your words have supported those who stumbled. You have strengthened faltering knees. But now trouble comes to you, and you are discouraged. It strikes you, and you are dismayed. Should not your piety be your confidence, and your blameless ways your hope? That's a pretty good question to ask or a thing to point out. Um, Job, you've helped a lot of people. Job, you've always had a lot of courage, and you've been pious. Shouldn't that be where you have your hope? Is in your blamelessness? If you are, perhaps that's the underlying thought in there. We'll see. But your trouble comes to you and you get discouraged. Come on, Job. You're the biggest one who's out there telling people that God is great, and now God has allowed trouble to come upon you, and you get discouraged right away. Now, I'm sorry, right away is a tricky thought here, but that's kind of what he's saying. He's like, man, you haven't been suffering for long. Why are you so downtrodden? And why can't you listen to advice? So I'm going to give you some. Consider now who, being innocent, has ever perished. Where were the upright ever destroyed? As I have observed, those who plow evil and those who sow trouble reap it. At the breath of God they perish, at the blast of his anger they are no more. The lions may roar and growl, yet the teeth of the great lions are broken. The lions perish for lack of prey, and the cubs and lionesses are scattered. Yeah, he's pointing the finger. Job, um, God doesn't bring punishment on the just and the upright. If God's bringing punishment on you, Job, you did something. You done messed up, Aaron. So, yeah, a bit of finger pointing going on there. A word was secretly brought to me. My ears caught a whisper of it. Amid disquieting dreams in the night, when deep sleep falls on people, fear and trembling seized me and made all my bones shake. A spirit glided glided past my face. I was trying to figure the word out. Glided past my face, and the hair on my body stood on end. It stopped, but I could not tell what it was. A form stood before my eyes, and I heard a hushed voice. Can a mortal be more righteous than God? Can even a strong man be more pure than his maker? Okay, I'm just gonna stop there because he's got a setup here. A word was brought to me in secret. So he's saying, look, I guess this isn't coming from me. I have this dream, and he's laying out how the dream happened, and then here's the point of that dream. Two questions. I think are pretty good questions, honestly. Can a mortal be more righteous than God? Can even a strong man be more pure than his maker? I mean, I know Greek has questions that are built in with obvious no answers. And I don't know if there's a clue here in the Hebrew, but I think as we read it, the obvious answer to both of these questions is no. A mortal cannot be more righteous than God. Therefore, Job, you're the one at fault. You're the one who did something. He's clearly laying all the blame on him. Job, bad stuff only happens to bad people. Good stuff happens to good people. You had all kinds of good stuff. That's gone now. Yeah, because you got bad stuff. That means you're a bad person, Job. Now, this is faulty thinking too, faulty theology. It, it in essence is, um, well, is it? I'm trying to think how it's prosperity gospel in essence, because if you don't have, it's because you haven't asked of God, and if you ask of God, you'll have if you believe, and so God gives to those. It's that same kind of thought that leads to prosperity gospel. Maybe that's a better way. It's the same logic that leads to the prosperity gospel that says God only wants you to have the best, and only if you have the best does it prove that you are following God. Um, so yeah, it is a circular logic. Sorry, just trying to turn my phone issue off there for a second. It beeps, so I want to make sure it doesn't keep happening. So it's this kind of circular logic that's going on. It says bad stuff's happening, you must be bad. If good stuff happens, you must be good. And so it discredits God being in control of all things. It discredits the rain falling on the just and the unjust. I mean, think about that. That's the most fascinating thing. If rain only fell on the just, wouldn't that be the most bizarre thing ever? You look across the street and neighbor, I'm just going to pick what's out my window. The neighbor in the yellow house, it's raining. The neighbor in the green house, it's not raining. The neighbor in the brown house, no rain either. And you go, the yellow house must be pretty good people. I mean, they get the rain. And the green and the brown house, must not be good people. There's no rain. I mean, how weird would that be? But that's the kind of logic that's being used here, is to say um, good stuff only happens to good people and bad stuff only happens to bad people. At least in my experience, that's all I've ever seen. You can't tell me any different because that's what everyone knows. And then puts the accusation, can a mortal be more righteous than God? So, Job, you're thinking you're righteous. How can you be more righteous than God? If bad stuff is happening, it means you're not righteous. Can you be stronger than the one who makes you? No, the answer is no, you can't be. So, Job, your pity and sorrow and self-loathing, um, there's a cause, and your evil's the cause. That's in essence what he's pointing out here. All right, let's finish. Um, if God places no trust in his servants, if he charges his angels with error, how much more those who live in houses of clay, whose foundations are in the dust, who are crushed more readily than a moth? Between dawn and dusk they are broken into pieces. Unnoticed, they perish forever. Are not the cords of their tents pulled up so that they die without wisdom? Job, you're made from dust. You're not worth much. And so, when your tent collapses, you're going to die. It's all going to collapse. Your whole life is collapsing. And so, it's the end is near. The end is near, my friend. And you're going to die without wisdom because you just clearly demonstrated you have no wisdom because you're cursing the day that you were born instead of realizing you've made mistakes and you've done wrong and that your fault that all this evil has come upon you. I'm just going to peek ahead because I don't remember. Yeah, he does continue. I thought he continued. Let's see, one more. Okay. We has another continuation, and then Job replies. Okay. So Job sits in silence. His friends sit in silence. He finally opens his mouth. As soon as he opens his mouth to express his sorrow, his friends don't comfort him. Notice that. He's not speaking comfort. He's pointing the finger at him. He's saying, man, quit feeling sorry for yourself. You brought it on yourself. You just need to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get better, so to speak. That's what he's saying. Oh, you know what? I did that again, didn't I? I did not switch over here so you could see the screen. I'm sorry. We're all the way through and I didn't notice that. I will have to try and remember to do that. So don't look at the small screen and have a big picture that doesn't make as much difference. So sorry about that, but I'll try to do better next time. So we're here at the end of the first piece of accusation against Job, and this is how things are gonna cycle through. As now an accusation against Job, a response of Job, an accusation against Job, a response of Job. So his three friends, and then some young whippersnapper is going to come along, and then following that will be conversation with God in regards to all of this. So that's where we are, and hope that well, in some ways, Job is an encouraging book. And so we can look at Job to find encouragement because even in the midst of all of the horrible things that Job has happened to him, even despite the fact that his friends are not comforting and encouraging, they're in some ways, they'd have been better off if they never showed up. They say the dumbest things. They make the situation worse. And yet, in all of it, um, Job is relying and trusting in God. And so there's that encouragement within this that no matter what, we can put our faith and trust in God and know that He's there for us. So, all right, until next time, have